here remembers Pokemon Go, right? We all remember Pokemon Go. I'm a special kind of nerdy gamer human. I was a huge fan of the first product of Niantic, which is a game called Ingress, which was kind of sci-fi, like conspiracy sort of thing. But it had the same concept. You ran around, you used your phone, you kind of checked out stuff. You went to different like nodes. But yeah. Turns out Pokemon Go, which looking in hindsight, this might not be a surprise really, but it was kind of a bit of a fucking psyop. Which we kind of understood because I'm sure y'all remember the Pokemon Go era too, but like time stood still for that game. Everybody just like hopped on board Pokemon Go, and then for a little bit, all anyone did was play that game. I remember my girlfriend at the time dragged me all the way across everywhere because she had to go catch all the Pokemon, and it seemed like everybody and their dog was playing the game at the exact same time. Well, turns out there's more to the story than just your average, hey, let's get everybody to play a mobile game. It'll be fun. I know. Probably shocking to absolutely fucking nobody. So this is Brian Lunduke, and don't worry, he does provide receipts for this. But we're gonna watch a little video here.
Pokemon Go is using your phone's camera to build a CIA-backed 3D map artificial intelligence engine. If that's not a load of buzzwords from the most ridiculous plot of the most ridiculous spy thriller movie ever, I don't know what is. If we saw that as the plot synopsis of a new Mission Impossible movie, every single nerd around the world would rightly say that's ridiculous. A 3D backed, a CIA-backed 3D map artificial intelligence engine. That sounds nuts. That sounds crazy. That sounds like a weird conspiracy theory fever dream. But it's actually a real thing, and it's really, really happening. And I kind of told everyone that it was happening back in 2016. And I'm not even joking on this. They are bragging about it. Niantic Labs, the company behind Pokemon Go, has released a new blog post on November 12th, just 1 week ago, bragging about how they are collecting millions and millions and millions of photos from everyone playing it in order to create this 3D AI system that sounds like a dystopian nightmare. Just to give you a little background on this. Back in 2016, when Pokemon Go was really taking off, back in those early naive days of smartphoning.
And right you are, where is it? Pokemon Go to the polls. Even Hillary Clinton talked about it, for fuck's sake. In Niantic, that's the company that made Pokemon Go and also made Ingress, if anybody fucked with Ingress back in the day.
I wrote an article talking about the connections between Pokemon Go, the NSA, and the CIA, and I pointed out to everybody that Pokemon Go really existed because of a direct investment by the CIA. Yes, the CIA. They have a venture capital firm called InQtel at the CIA.
This is all very surprising.
It's a venture firm. They invest in tech companies that would be good for the CIA or the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency or any of the various other three-letter acronym agencies in the United States. This is what this company does. And they invested in the company that would eventually become Niantic. And they saw some good results from that over the years, and I pointed out to everybody at the time the ridiculous amount of data that Pokemon Go has on people. And just to give you a slight list of the data that they get from all of the players of Pokemon Go, I want to point this out. I'm just going to read this bullet list to you real quick because it's a massive amount of data. They know because you're holding the smartphone in front of you with the camera pointed at your face and a camera pointed out with a GPS chip and an active internet connection off of various cell phone sites. With all that information, they know where you are when you're playing this, where you were, what route you took between those locations, when you were at each locations and therefore your travel speed, how long it took you to get between them, what you are looking at right now, what you were looking at in the past, and what you look like during that entire process, among a ton of other bits of information. Now you combine all of that together and you can do some pretty amazing things. Now, shortly after I published that article, I went on a TV show, multiple radio shows to talk about this exact topic. And I got laughed at a lot because, oh my gosh, Lunduk is a crazy conspiracy wacko. He's thinking they're going to use Pokemon Go for some...
Now, I don't know this guy's political affiliation, but I'd just like to say, this is basically what it's like to be on the far left every fucking day of your life. It's the same cycle every single time. You speak out about something, everybody calls you a tinfoil conspiracy nut job. And then about 6 months later, everybody's like, holy shit, how did you call that? That's just life. You're the canary in the coal mine. They try and shoot you down. And then later on, you're vindicated. But the problem, the reason why it sucks so bad, is because you're never vindicated in time. You're always vindicated when, like, the hellfire is raining down. Not when you're initially calling out, like, hey, that volcano's about to explode. Anyway, I digress.
Some crazy, weird, totally unbelievable Mission Impossible plot, right? That was the criticism I got. So, but I'm like, no, guys, just think about this for a second. And people, oh, no. Lunduk, you're being a wacko again. Well, then the next year, after that article came out, in 2017, WikiLeaks published something called Vault 7, which was a series of documents that was purported to be a large leak of CIA-related information, and it focused heavily on electronic surveillance issues, where projects, descriptions, code names of hacking projects, all sorts of stuff. And here's the crazy thing about that leak that came out of the CIA. Almost a full third, roughly 30% of all of the code names for all of the projects in the CIA that dealt with hacking or electronic surveillance or using Android devices in weird, creepy ways, the code names were named after Pokemon. No, I'm just saying it's really strange that the CIA literally invested in a company that made a Pokemon game, and around half of their code names for electronic surveillance projects were all the names of Pokemon. It was weird. It's weird. It's really weird, right? And I also want to point this out. The guy that was responsible for that investment that ultimately led to Niantic Labs and Pokemon Go is a man named Gilman Louie. He was the CEO of In-Q-Tel, that investment arm of the CIA. And for his work, investing in what became the Pokemon Go company, Gilman Louie received several awards, including the CIA Agency SEAL Medallion, I think he got 2 of those, the Director's Award by the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, and a Director of National Intelligence Medallion. So the CIA was like, this is the best thing ever for us. The CIA was so psyched about what Niantic Labs and Pokemon Go was doing that they're just like, Mr. Gilman Louie, who was responsible for this, we're just going to give you this award and this medallion and this bronze whatever and this golden thing. And they just showered him with crazy amounts of things. And then I went on TV shows to talk about it. Now here we are. Just a couple years later. It's 2024. I had to look at the calendar for that. So 8 years after I published that original article, and Niantic Labs over at nianticlabs.com published an article entitled Building a Large Geospatial Model to Achieve Spatial Intelligence. Quote, at Niantic, we are pioneering the concept of a large geospatial model that will use large-scale machine learning to understand a scene and connect it to millions of other scenes globally. So, large geospatial model, LGM, not large language model, LLM, right? You get the idea. It's AI, but for 3D spaces. Global 3D spaces. As part of Niantic's Visual Positioning System, VPS, we have trained more than 50 million neural networks with more than 150 trillion parameters, enabling operation in over 1 million locations. The large geospatial model, LGM, will enable computers not only to perceive and understand physical spaces, but also interact with.
Listen, Witchy. The only Nordic magic here is me.
Them in new ways, forming a critical component of augmented reality glasses and fields beyond, including robotics, content creation, and autonomous systems. As we move from phones to wearable technology linked to the real world, spatial intelligence will become the world's future operating system. The large geospatial models will help computers perceive, comprehend, and navigate the physical world in a way that will seem equally advanced to the large language models. It is crazy. I want to go scroll down here because I want to read a few more of these quotes because the things they admit to me are mind-boggling. It's like Dr. Evil sitting in his volcano lair and he's like, I just put lasers on friggin' sharks. I'm gonna hop on YouTube and tell people I put friggin' lasers on friggin' sharks, right?
Because this is the hubris of the bourgeoisie. This is the hubris of the capitalist class. This is what is going to be their downfall, just like it always has been before. But I hate to say it, y'all, at this point, yeah, they're just bragging about it openly. It's not just that, though. This is also a threat. This is also that very same group of rich and powerful human beings saying, hey, we can track you. We have a whole map now thanks to you idiots running around catching Pokemon. And you know we're making robots and we got a bunch of drones, so don't get any wise ideas. There's always a brag to it.
It's like, wait a minute, you're admitting, you're bragging about the evil plan. Here we go. Quote, a geospatial model implements a form of geospatial intelligence where the model learns from its previous observations and is able to transfer knowledge to new locations even if those are observed only partially.
Ingress was the beta test. I know that in hindsight now. That was the original sin. That was their play up for the big PSYOP. Because obviously something like Ingress wasn't going to blow up. They needed a big label. And what's a bigger label than Pokemon? Of course that was going to blow up.
Right? So it can kind of make up assumptions based on the massive amount of data it has about, say, how rooms and buildings are laid out and what might be behind the dumpster in the alleyway, these sorts of things, right? Over the past 5 years, here's the key part. Here's the part where they admit to spying on everybody. Over the past 5 years, Niantic has focused on building our Visual Positioning System, VPS, which uses a single image from a photo to determine its position and orientation using a 3D map built from people scanning interesting locations in our games. That's right. What games are they talking about? Pokémon Go. With VPS, users can position themselves in the world with centimeter level accuracy. What can you do with centimeter level accuracy? You can do a lot. A lot of things that are terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Niantic has built The the visual positioning system, VPS is built from user scans taken from different perspectives and at various times of day, at many times during the years, and with positioning information attached, creating a highly detailed understanding of the world. This data is unique because it is taken from a pedestrian perspective and includes places inaccessible to cars. So people walking around with their cell phone held in front of them, pointed out, looking at things, and constantly sending pictures, GPS data, speed data, time of day, all of it, telemetry information back to Niantic at all times. This is what I've been telling people. This is exactly what they're doing. And they're going to use that data that they're gaining from you. And so many people are like, no. There are really good privacy controls on smartphones. And there's no way, no how, that Niantic is bypassing these security controls on smartphones. Are you kidding me here? Are you friggin' kidding me, people? They're bragging about it now. Now here's the thing. Here's a heat map of all the places where they have massive amounts of data about you. Today, quote, "We have 10 million scanned locations around the world, and over 1 million of those are activated and available for use with our VPS service. We receive about 1 million fresh scans each week, each containing hundreds of discrete images." So when you're walking around, they don't just take one little picture. They take hundreds of pictures as you're scanning all over the place of you, of the people you're around, of the people inside your house, of the people inside your business, of the people at the park, wherever you're at. You're in the bathroom scanning, you're playing Pokemon Go, it's getting scanned. That's right. If you're in the bathroom playing Pokemon Go, it's getting scanned. Wherever you're at, it's getting scanned. Quote, "As part..."
You are scanning when you are shitting and you are farting. I repeat, you are scanning when you are shitting and also farting.
Of the VPS, we build classical 3D vision maps using structure from motion techniques, but also a new type of neural map for each place. These neural models, based on our research papers, and they link to the research papers, on ACE and ACE 0, do not represent locations using classical 3D data structures anymore, but encodes them implicitly in the learnable parameters of a neural network. These networks can swiftly compress thousands of mapping images into a lean neural representation, given a new...
How dare you, sir? How dare you? How dare you? What, just because we both have glasses and a beard, suddenly we're related? Is that what we're doing here? Anybody with facial hair and glasses, I guess, is a relative of mine. Jesus Christ.
New query image. They offer
offended.
precise positioning for that location with centimeter level accuracy. Holy heavens. I am flabbergasted that they're so outwardly admitting it at this point. They are spying on everyone who's playing the game and everyone who comes within visual range of anyone who plays the game. Have you ever been around someone in a park, in a restaurant, anywhere where someone was playing Pokemon Go? You are now in Niantic's giant database of surveillance, which was backed by the CIA, and which the CIA gave several awards to the guy who sits on Niantic's board, Gilman Louie, who originally invested in that company. And they did so because they thought this is going to be useful, and boy were they right. Now think to yourself, what possible use could a spy agency have for a constantly updated, with millions and millions of new updates every week, searchable AI map of the world, of pedestrian locations where people can walk? Now, think about this for a second. Where are places that cars can't go?
Oh, no. Fucking
Stop.
Get out of here.
Inside your house. Oh, so the CIA now has a map of inside your house and where the things are at inside your house and where you usually are at inside your house and what you are doing usually when you are in those locations inside your house and what everyone else in your house is doing and at what days you did them and how fast you moved between the rooms. There's a ton of data in here, an absolute metric ton of data, so much data that it would make Dr. Evil blush and say, this is a bit too far. Don't you think this is a bit too much of an invasion of privacy? There is not a single Bond villain that wouldn't go, whoa, hold on, Haas, that's this is way too far. I mean, lasers on sharks is one thing, and blowing up the moon, yeah, that's cool and exciting, but this is crazy evil. Now, I'm not going to deny, the technology behind this is both impressive and neat. No doubt about it. And there are potentially a large variety of very practical uses for this sort of system. Not going to deny that either. Absolutely. However, I guarantee you, think about this, is the CIA interested in those uses that you think are totally practical and harmless?
So I always say this. Every single major technological advancement that we should be really excited about is ruined because of fucking capitalism. Or the government, or crony capitalism, if you're just tuning in and kind of still wrestling with the broken system we're trying to toil under. But every single technological advancement we have to look at with fear and apprehension, such as AI, such as automation, such as robotics, and yes, such as something as dystopian as a massive map, essentially. Which, because of the system we live under, we all think of just like a million things that they could do to further subjugate us, to further dominate us, to further control us, and monitor our every move. But again, if we lived under a better system, all of this would be celebrated. You know? So... that's what for people who are just tuning in, that's what I personally always say. All of this shit would be so exciting if we didn't live under this dystopian hellscape.
For all of this data and these giant AI systems that are spying on you constantly. Is that why the CIA invested in it and gave people lots and lots of awards for creating it? Yeah. If you believe that, I have a bridge in the middle of the Atlantic that I'd like to sell you. Oh my word. Well, here we go. What'll be really interesting to me is this. Now that basically everything I said about what the CIA is probably doing with this, what Niantic probably had planned here way back in 2016, has completely borne out to be 100% accurate and on point. This was kind of obvious. I wonder how many people out there will still be like, oh my gosh, Lunduke, you conspiracy theorist crazy person. I'm just going to hold my phone in front of me and walk around and point it at people, and there's no way this independent CIA-backed company is going to do anything with that data. Conspiracy. I think there's still going to be people out there who are like trying to brush this off as some weird conspiracy theory. Now that Niantic is outwardly bragging about exactly what they're doing with the data. Right? It's not just a theory anymore. It's not just, well, this is obviously what they're doing. They haven't said it, but what else are they going to be doing? That's what it was at. That's the stage we were at up until last week. Up until last week, it was, this is obviously the case. They're obviously spying on everybody, but they just haven't fessed up yet. Now they've not only fessed up, they stood on top of the mountain, declared it with a big old blog post, and basically told the world how great they are for it. So, anyway, I have to put that out there into the world in part because it feels good to be vindicated after 8 years of being mocked for this one. So there you go. If whether you heard me talk about this on my show, on the radio, on the TV, read about the articles, or just heard people laugh at me on the internet because of my crazy conspiracy theory about CIA and Pokemon Go, well, now you know I was 100% accurate, completely spot on, and everyone who disagreed with me has absolutely no idea what they're talking about in relation to all this stuff. And that feels great. So,
and I gotta say, it's whenever you have one of these moments, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have had these moments as well, where you feel that vindication, it's so bittersweet. Because it's like, there's always a part of you, I don't know if you guys are the same way as me, there's always a part of you that hopes you're wrong. You're like, fuck, I hope I'm wrong. And then it turns out you're right, and I'm like, oh great, well that's vindication, I suppose, but that's a confirmation of a terrible thing that's going to affect a lot of people in a really negative way. So I'm deeply disappointed, and it always comes too late too, so you can't really do anything about it. If you're only vindicated by the time this shit has already popped off and served its purpose, there's no point to your vindication. The only thing you can do that's positive is say, look, I was right about X, Y, and Z. So the next time I'm trying to, sound the alarm on something, can you at least, consider that maybe my concerns might be a little valid? That's the only, silver lining here. But let's think about, for a second, let's think about the implications of something like this. So an interactive, massive map that the CIA now has. So think about the ramifications of that for everything you do on your phone. And don't forget, Elmo over there on the Bird app wants everybody who's verified or whatever, uploading their ID, their identification. This is all coming together pretty quick. But I'll spoil it for everybody. What the ruling class wants, what the capitalist class wants, is they want to be able to track the every thought, utterance, and movement of the working class. They want to have eyes on absolutely everything we do, say, or even think. Because don't forget, Elon's also the brain chip guy, and the folks at the World Economic Forum have already been very public that they would like neurological implants that would be able to read your mind and your emotions. So this is all coming together very quickly. And believe it or not, Karl Marx did call all of this shit out. So we're talking about, Fred, I told you so. Karl Marx has multiple centuries now of I told you so. I digress. That was the whole point behind Pokemon Go. You saw it break here first.